This is Jody. I'm here with Mary Jo Almond, and the date is 10/29/2016. All right. So, do you have a particular food story you'd like to share with us today?
Plenty. Which one would you like? The Philippine ones or the?
We can start there. Yeah.
Oh, Philippine tradition. We feed people. We like to feed people. All my recipes when I could cook Philippine food. I mean, it feeds quite a lot. You've got the big noodles,
Right.
the egg rolls, and you just feed people. And at the end of parties, if you've ever been to a Filipino party, they like to send you home with food. It's like you think you're starving. Like, oh no, take here. They'll give you. They'll fix up a plate for you. It's like, oh, but I mean, they will send you stuff, literally. So.
Is it like a cultural type thing?
Yes.
Or is it just something that's been handed down that this is the way it's supposed to
This
be
is
done?
just how everybody does it. You go to a Filipino house, and the first thing they'll ask, "Have you eaten yet?" Like in Chinese food, have you had rice? And if you say no, oh well, here, let me get you something anyway. And there's always going to be something to eat.
Right.
Take your pick. We have parties, Filipino parties.
Yeah, let's start there.
We have, one thing is, if you're an honored guest, you've seen the roast pig like they have in Hawaii?
Mm-hmm.
That is you have to have that, you have to have the noodles, you have to have the fried little mini egg rolls,
Okay.
desserts of all kind. It's fun.
Okay.
When did you move here?
June 1972. I was 12 years old when we came, so it was a big adjustment from the Philippines to States.
Okay.
And lived in D.C. ever since.
And you moved here, was it 5 months ago?
Yeah. Moved down here in February this year. So you talk about another cultural shock, in more ways than one. Food-wise, yeah, that too.
Is there anything here that you put with your traditional Philippines recipes, or?
Well, when I was growing up, I started to learn how to cook American, and so I've always cooked American. Every now and then I'll shift and I'll cook Philippine food. My husband had never had Philippine food, taught him how. But there are certain things we don't touch.
Like what?
Duck egg.
Oh, yeah.
That's people like it. It's an acquired taste. And have you guys ever heard about that?
I've had it once. I did
You
not like
brave
it.
thing.
Yeah, I don't
They
think I'm
didn't tell
brave
me
enough
what
to
it
try
was
it.
until I ate it.
Yeah, they don't. I was 3 years old. My dad had a friend who had a duck farm. 3 years old. I go along. Here's a duck egg. And I looked at it, peeled it, and I'm like, this doesn't look like the egg white and yolk that I'm used to, but I'll eat it. And then I realized, as I got older, it had feathers. It was a half-formed embryo. So, of course, it's got the little baby feathers and the little baby beak. And I'm thinking, but they love this in the Philippines. I grew up with it. At night, where we lived, midnight you'll have, or not necessarily midnight, but you'll have street vendors. They'll come and they'll yell out, balut, they're selling the duck eggs late at night. And I always joke, I said the reason why they sell it at night is that way you don't see what you're eating. But it's a favorite snack. Andrew Zimmern featured it in his Bizarre Foods. You cannot pay me enough money to eat that.
Are there any kind of traditional Philippine foods that you'd like to talk about today? Maybe something that you like making or something?
Noodles. Noodles are easy to cook. You can shrimp, chicken, pork, you just saute it, and whatever vegetables you want to put in. I like to put in green beans, little carrots for color, and alternate.
Okay.
And coming down here, I already knew about Southern cooking, so it's the same concept of it's comfort food.
I got you.
I can go to Garden Gate every day, but I can't do that. So I'll be there. But it's fun to see and compare what I grew up knowing, what I was eating in D.C., and then coming down here, and the differences. It's fascinating.
Do you have a favorite thing locally here, or like food or restaurant?
Everything.
Everything.
Barbecue. my husband and I had this when we first came. You know, everybody said you have to have barbecue. So there's a pamphlet, the Alabama Barbecue. No, it's the North Alabama Barbecue Trail. So we're making it our mission to at least check. And then, of course, here everybody says, well, if you're going to get barbecue, go to Bunyan's.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Haven't had the hot dog yet, but we've had the barbecue. We've done Southern barbecue. I picked up, oh shoot, it's in the bags that you can get at Big Star. He only caters and you could sell it, but he doesn't have a storefront. And it's really good. And it says the bags will make 6 to 8 sandwiches. I was a little skeptical. I'm looking at this little frozen bag. When you thaw it out in the microwave, warm it up, it makes 6 to 8 sandwiches, okay? But it's good. I can't think of his name. But I love,
Was there any foods that you made on maybe a specific holiday, maybe in the Philippines or in Washington, that you guys wanted to celebrate?
Oh, there's plenty that you make. Every Christmas, okay, like I said, when Christmas birthdays, you have the noodles. It's like a Chinese tradition, long life. So you try not to break the noodles.
Okay.
But there's one, there's a dessert, it's flan. And it's like creme brulee, but a lot heftier, the Spanish version.
Okay.
And I had always been told that the more egg yolks you put in, yes, it's going to be richer and heftier. Usually was also a sign of how much more affluent you were. Because then you got poor people in the Philippines, but the more, like I said, and it's going to get heavier, the richer it is, so it's sort of maybe tied into your social status.
Okay.
And the other thing too is, in Philippines, we like apples, American apples. Red Delicious is just a big Christmas thing. And we don't grow apples in the Philippines that I know of, but we go to a holiday party in a lot of homes, apples and American grapes.
That's kind of interesting.
Couldn't explain that why, but I just remember growing up also associating apples and grapes with Christmas in the Philippines, but it had to be the American.
When you were growing up in the Philippines,
Yeah.
was there a particular food that you liked to eat? Any kind of barbecue or something like that you liked?
The roast pork, the pig.
Roasted pork. Okay.
Would you like to talk about that?
Okay, what it is apparently, this tradition of the barbecue, right? And what they do is you take a whole pig and you clean it off, you burn off the hair, and then you have a dug spit, and like you've seen on TV, they'll put a pig, and you'll see men carrying the pig. Put it in there, they salt, pepper, garlic, and it's over flaming coals. And depending on, I guess, whoever makes it, they'll cover it with banana leaves and just leave it for the whole day. And when it's cooked, the skin is crispy. And I remember growing up, now we lived in the city, and our house was a duplex, we had a big garage. And I remember coming down one day, and I think I must have been 5 or 6, this huge pig in our garage. And I'm looking at it like, live? What are you guys doing with this pig? Wow. I'm like, oh, we're going to have lechon. Okay. And I remembered hearing the pig squealing because they had to butcher it. But I remembered it was black and white. And they were scraping the hair off this pig. And that's when I realized, oh, this is where it comes from.
Right.
And so I started just, how do you cook it? And that's when they had the big fire, and you roast it in the backyard. There was dinner.
And was this something, did you ever help prepare a meal like this? Or was this something maybe
I watched adults grow up doing it. I also remember my grandmother, we'd go to the market, and she came home one day with a chicken, a live chicken. And feathers and everything, and first time I ever watched her, she cut the head off and take off the feathers, and didn't bother me. I was fascinated because I thought, oh, well, what are you guys doing? Oh, there's dinner. This is in a bowl of soup that same night. But what we do is you save the chicken blood and you let it congeal, and there's a soup that you will add it to when it's solidified. And they would cut it in cubes and serve that. I know. I ate it as a child. It was pretty good, I have to admit. But if I was as an adult now, I'd think twice. But there is another dish, and it's made with pork blood. You've probably heard of it? Yes. Okay. And it's another one of those specialties. Depending on what part of the country you go to, my family made it with just regular pork. Others will include the innards, like lungs, liver, pieces that I would not even, as an adult, I'd think twice. I've also had snails, coconut milk. I was an adventurous child. Now as an adult, I'd be thinking twice. But it's one of those, this is because it's what we have. It's indigenous.
Okay. Was there anything that you didn't like growing up that you tried?
The duck egg.
The duck egg.
well, not, but as growing up, they put that in front of me again. I would say no.
Okay.
Beef tongue. It's a specialty. I guess somebody figured out how to cook it. The Spanish version. Spanish. I like fruits, and we grew up. Each month of the year had a specific fruit, and you could only either you found it that particular month, or it was just happened to be ripe that particular month. But we associated with it. So I'm trying to think. February was something called the star apple. It's about this big, purple and green on the outside, perfectly round. You cut it in half, and the outsides would be purple. The insides would be in the shape of a star. That'd be white. And there's a seed in each. 5 seeds, I think.
Huh.
And then April were these little sour plums. They look like grapes because they come in bunches. And you would have to eat them with salt. And it was just one of those, that's how you always ate it. August, I believe, was another one called... Shoot.
I was wondering how you ended up.
Atis is the only word I can think of. I'd have to think it's the American translation. But if you open it up, the skin is outside like scaly, like an alligator. But you open it up when it's fully ripe, and it'll have little white pieces sticking out, and each one is a seed. If you were to take a pomegranate, slice it in half, and you know how there's individual, each one in this particular fruit will be covered in a white flesh, sweet.
Sounds like durian.
No, durian's a different story. Durian. I forgot about durian. Thank you for reminding me. Once you've inhaled durian, you never want to inhale it again. Okay, durian is an oblong fruit. Mm-hmm. It's got spikes. It stinks. It reeks. But if you cut it open and you eat it, it's a combination of, I'd read somewhere, like cheddar cheese and sugar, and I mean it's good, but it's just getting to that. And somebody once told me you take canola oil and you put your hands in it because it gets sticky, and that's how you eat it. But it reeks. I tell you, it smells like a sewer.
Oh wow.
It is forbidden on certain airlines in Asia.
Because of the smell.
Oh wow.
Yes.
I didn't know it was that bad.
It is bad. Singapore Airlines bans it, but in the Philippines we make candies with it, so that's how you can get away with it.
Right.
You know, little candies. We like mangoes, dried fruit in the summer. And we do weird stuff like watermelons. To get the most out of the sweet flavor, you dip it in salt and vinegar. Mm-hmm. You know this, huh? Have you eaten Philippine food before?
I know a lot about fruit.
Okay. What's the other one? December.
What you're talking about, could it be jackfruit?
No, it's smaller.
I can't think of.
They're I think they call it star fruit. It's similar. I think Puerto Rico has some guayabano.
Wait, those little.
It's little and it's got scales, but when you break it open, each one is like attached to a little pointed. It's white fruit.
Well, I never saw an inside of it, but it kind of looks like a kiwi to me.
No, I'll have to look. I've got enough cookbooks at home. I should go look it up and say, okay, which fruit is it? Or I've got it bookmarked somewhere. Different kinds of fruit. But it's interesting. And you've got so many, like I said, Christmas. It's called Little Brown Chico, and they have something similar in Mexico. Sapodilla, brownish, and it's cut it open. I know there's 2 black seeds, and it's juicy, sweet. What's the other one? December. They look like grapes, but they're bigger. Pale brownish skin. They're not quite in I thought they were in the same family as the lychees because it's that color's flesh inside. Mm-hmm. But they come in bunches.
Oh, so are you part of the building club? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll have to write that name for you. I can picture it in my head. We had a neighbor who had a tree, and it was growing, and one. No, it wasn't cacao, because that's where chocolate comes from.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. Before I leave, I'll write it for you. If you know a lot about fruits, then you'd know what I'm thinking about. Yes? Anything?
Well, the holidays are coming up. Are you planning on anything?
Well, I know Thanksgiving we're going to my mother-in-law's. So, but that's where it cracked me up. Congealed salads are a salad. Mm-hmm. Back home in Virginia, they're dessert in a Jell-O. I found that out quick, fast, in a hurry. My first Christmas here, one of my husband's aunts had brought the Jell-O salad, which had mandarin oranges, Cool Whip, pineapple, right? Mm-hmm. I put it in the dessert table. I was told wrong. So I thought, no, it's dessert, it's Jell-O. It's got Cool Whip. So I started looking up all the recipes. I started collecting cookbook recipes. Everyone that is basically from the South puts that in the salads and vegetables section. Mm-hmm. So I tell my friends, and I went to visit. I said, you guys, if you come down south, please know that congealed salads. They're not called Jell-O here. It's congealed salad. It's a salad. It's not a dessert. They thought I was joking. But it's been fun exploring and just kind of back and forth, and, comparing.
Was there any big food noticeable differences between the Philippines and when you moved up to, you say Washington?
Washington, D.C.
Were there any big noticeable differences there?
Oh, yeah. We don't eat rice as much.
Okay.
We don't eat, or in D.C. we didn't do like a lot of fried foods, which we do in the Philippines. A lot of it became convenience food because somebody, back home in the Philippines, a lot of families have maids. And that doesn't necessarily because you were really rich, but you had, we called them maid, but you had help, like a family distant cousin coming from the province, wanting to earn some money, come over and help cook,
right,
which is what we had. And in the Philippines, the way the houses are, you had 2 kitchens. You had the inside kitchen and the outside kitchen. Outside kitchen is where you did things like fried foods, did a lot of like your butchering type thing, whereas the inside kitchen is where, maybe I would probably say, for lack of a better word, refined cooking. You cook your desserts, so that way the house doesn't smell. The outside kitchen had open windows. We didn't have a lot of air conditioning because you didn't, and that's where we did a lot of the outdoor cooking. Okay. And I think that's where they butchered the pig in my old house growing up. But here, like in D.C., eat a lot of sandwiches. I learned how to make sandwiches. Things that you cooked in the oven, pot roast, spaghetti. Growing up, because then it was, I'm having to cook myself. Whereas back home, somebody else cooked for you. And we'd go to the market every day in the Philippines. because we had the luxury of going to nearby, getting everything fresh. You bought only the food that you cooked for the day
Oh.
because we had outdoor markets nearby. Didn't have a lot of refrigeration. Whereas coming to the United States, and it was, you went to the grocery store once a week, you
Right.
bought everything you needed, everything was already cut up, prepared. In the Philippines, like I said, you go in and the outdoor market, you'll have several butcher stalls. You get your favorite butcher, you go to them, and you'd see the hanging carcass, for lack of a better. You pick your chickens, you pick your eggs. You know, you go to where the fish guy was, and you could pick the fish out. You could say, I want that one, and they'll stand there, they'll clean it up for you. Or you take it home and you clean it yourself.
Right.
So that's the difference between the Philippines, the way I knew growing up in the 60s. Coming to DC, I'd never seen chickens on the styrofoam. I'm like,
So the accessibility to a lot more maybe fresher
Oh, yeah,
foods.
definitely.
Okay.
yeah.
What is your favorite food, like Filipino or American?
Philippine food, I have to confess, it's a blood pudding. I can't have it here because it's good. I mean, it just takes some people acquired taste, but it's something I grew up, so it wouldn't bother me. That would be Philippine food. American food, I would love to learn how to make a good pot roast. You know, the proper, you see it under, that is what I would love to learn. I can make it, but it doesn't look the same. So, but I've also, I like to eat a lot. I explore different cultures, you know. But there's stuff that if I zoom back, it's always back to America. I was a kid, I was born in the wrong country.
Well, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, you asked me. I mean, what do you think? This is because I wasn't quite sure what to expect. You guys are like doing oral history, so it's just preserving.
Yeah, just trying to get a deeper understanding of maybe some
The
people's
community.
right, the community.
Here, well, when I came, I had to admit I had reservations. My husband was born in Savannah, Tennessee, so for him it's just coming home. For me, I looked up, apparently when they did the last census in Florence, Alabama, the Asian or Filipino population was 0.035.
Wow.
My husband's like, oh, you just bumped it up, didn't you? You know, between me and Diane. But apparently there's a Filipino community over the river. It shows. I've met one or two. And, you know, every now and then I'll have a hankering for Philippine food. So we drive up to Madison. There's a bigger Asian grocery store there. And the one that's down here is little. So we got to talking with the people at the Chinese restaurant, and they said, oh no, you have to go to Madison. But we exchanged, you know. And it's just interesting. Every now and then I'll start to compare, and I said, oh, you could cook this. Because I can go to a regular grocery store and I can cook some Philippine food. It's just you make sometimes you substitute things. But it's not been that different.
Are there any dishes that you prepare that you often have to substitute maybe an American food for because we just don't have it here? Or
Let me think. Not really. Because then, you know, you start to look, because the Philippines also got so Americanized that they start doing things. But I know that when we Philippine cookbooks do spaghetti, they add sugar. And we put a little ketchup instead of tomato sauce. There's always that, they add a little sweet thing.
do you know why that is? Is it a flavor thing or just a preference maybe?
I have no idea. I haven't figured that out. It's just a flavor thing. I've noticed that Philippines, Spam, Vienna sausages, canned corned beef. And here it's like, completely different. You know, it's just maybe just that's how we grew up, and you come here and you think, oh, never mind. I won't mention spam. Funny people look, people give me that funny look, but I'm like, we grew up with it. We'd fried spam. We don't have bologna in the Philippines that I know of. Hot dogs. When we used to make spaghetti, we'd chop up hot dogs or Vienna sausage and put them in there. Haven't seen that here yet.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Let's see. Have you added anything to your traditional recipes since moving here? I think we kind of touched a little bit on it, but
Like substitute
yeah.
things. Not eating as much rice, so it's like mashed potatoes. That was a big change. Everybody, come here and it was like mashed potatoes. What's the appeal of? Because back home, the only time we had potatoes was either in soup or in chicken potato salad. Mashed potatoes were a whole new world. Baked potatoes. So that would I would say that would be a big substitution. But it was coming to the United States was a big learning curve in terms of food. Because then it was meatloaf. We didn't have meatloaf. Meatballs, yes. Meatloaf was a big thing. Steak. We just didn't do steak back home. Here, throw it on the grill, steaks. But things like that. Pork was big in the Philippines. Here it was, and in DC at least was beef.
Right.
But then coming down here, pork's. So it kind of in a way, it's like, oh, this is really cool. It's almost like a, what's the word? Reversal.
Reversal?
Yeah, you're coming back to something that's suddenly very familiar, and beef is not as. I guess maybe I could be wrong. But it's not as prevalent here as pork is. And seafood. And what's fascinating here is the number of Japanese restaurants.
Yeah. That is kind of our thing.
Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, I have to admit, this town is different, having to learn eating habits, cooking, what they like here. Fried fish, we do have that in common. But we didn't, like you don't, bread, you take the whole fish and you just dip it and fry it. I mean, once you clean it, but yeah, and seafood. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything? Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming down today. We really appreciate you coming down and sharing your stories with us. It's been a pretty cool experience.
Well, I hope that was helpful. I just saw the cookbook display the other day, and I thought, what is that about? This is because of traveling. So I was lucky enough to go to Russia and Ukraine. Russia, we stayed at a very nice hotel. Okay, big deal, but you could see where it's not like grocery shopping here because we really didn't have a chance. Went to the Ukraine, and I went into a bakery. Well, you know how some places here, when you go stand in line, like going to an amusement park, you have like this. Mm-hmm. This was at the bakery. And I'm looking at the shelves and there's no bread. And I thought, well, how did they manage? And my thought was, gee, I guess I miss Wonder Bread. So I went out to the street. And I saw this man, very well dressed, in a suit. Okay. And he puts out this box in the middle of the street. Well, all of a sudden, these ladies just converge on him. Well, what's he selling? And one lady hold up frozen chicken. A whole frozen chicken, been, feathered, defeathered and all that. And within maybe 10 minutes, at the time I stood there and watched, he had sold all the contents of his box.
Wow.
And I'm looking around thinking, don't you guys have grocery stores here? But I guess because of the food shortage in the Ukraine at the time, that he had a thing going, a good thing, and this is what he sold on the street. Technically, I think he probably could get in trouble with the black market for selling, but that is what I remember most. And I came back and I thought, I will never look at chicken the same way again. Take it for granted.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's when you start thinking about, oh, wow, going to the Philippines and being able to go to the market. Going to a grocery store here in the United States, being able to pick up a piece of chicken versus all these women just converging on this one man with a box of frozen chickens. And they were really scrawny chickens. I mean, not like the Frank Perdue types you see here, but it's what he could get
Right.
and what they got. And they paid him. The box was literally empty, gone in the space of 10 minutes. I just watched. Complete fascination.
That's sad.
It is. It's sad. And, you know, 3 days before I had been in Moscow. And then you start to compare. And then the next year later I went to Turkmenistan. And this is when all the Soviet Union had just fallen. It was interesting. In the middle of this country, they had like 2 or 3 hotels. And one was a Italian Turkmenistan venture. They were selling Italian food for whoever, the tourists. But there were not a lot of tourists there. So people who were doing business, you know, you kind of see how they were serving.
Mm-hmm.
What's their idea of Italian food. And I think I remembered hearing somebody say that it was really difficult for them to bring foodstuffs over to make the Italian food because there wasn't a lot in the local market either. So you see what's little things like that, just your memories and your history, and then you go back and you start reading what they have, and when you have different cultures coming in and trying to adapt,
Right.
they had it harder than we did. So, anyway, but that's that. I just remember the chicken story because that has haunted me for a long time.
Well, thank you for sharing it with
Thank
us.
you.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, travels. So.